The story for Mad Max Fury Road is Max is now a feral creature. He just doesn't care about anything. He's reduced to only one thing, is to just survive. And he is kidnapped by the war boys of the warlord, the Immortan Joe. While at the same time, a character called Imperator Furiosa steals Immortan Joe's wives and sets them off on a journey to back to her homeland, basically, to give them, the peace and security and a life that she thinks they deserve, as well as her. And Immortan Joe goes after her, and Max gets dragged along into the fight. I have to say, this is actually worth the hype. I mean, a lot of people ever since, even before it came out, were saying, go see this movie, it's fantastic, you have to see it. It is a fantastic movie, I have to admit. It is beautiful. The cinematography is excellent, beautiful shots. The desert has never looked, or just a wasteland period, has never looked so beautiful. Editing was fantastic. The editing complemented not only the cinematography, but the action. Everything was just blended so well together. It was beautiful. Acting was great. Charlize Theron, don't need to, comment on her. She was perfect. Tom Hardy was actually very good as Max. I mean, fitting into the boots of what Mel Gibson did for the past 3 movies was really good. I mean, he did a good job. Although since he was more feral, he barely spoke, so it was kind of interesting. Then we got, we have the actor who played the villain in the very first movie played the villain in this one, and it was interesting seeing him play 2 different roles. If you remember in the first one, he played more of kind of like a Genghis Khan-ish type of general, very philosophical. This one, he's just a hungry warlord. He just wants war and is looking for, a male heir, and thinks he's a god in a sense. So it was kind of interesting to see him play 2 different types of people. The action sequences, the action sequences were just great. A lot of good explosions, gunfights, close calls, deaths, destruction. It was amazing. And in fact, the entire movie is one long giant chase scene. It is just long. It's like, I think the movie's like 2 hours. At least it seems like it's maybe like an hour and 45 minutes. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't really check the time, but you really don't know how long the movie is, because since the whole movie is basically one long chase sequence, you just get so enveloped by it, the time just goes by really fast. Hey, it's amazing. Let's see, action sequences, yeah, it's design, oh my goodness, design was great. Since the last 3 movies were made from 1979 to the mid-80s, they're the ones that started the kind of punk rockish, punk rock post-apocalyptic look, with everybody wearing leather and masks, kind of basically fetish type of clothing, basically, that look kind of very awkward. They started that in the 80s. Well, this one, because, it's being made in more modern times, and they have more at their disposal with, how to make costumes and stuff, they decided to do something different. And I have to admit, it looks good and fits well into the Mad Max universe. Instead of kind of like a punk rockish look, instead it's more, the costumes, everything is more of kind of like a rustic look, and it's kind of like things that are pieced together of what people can find. Like Furiosa's arm, because she has a mechanical arm, it's not like just everything's just one type of metal. It's like there's different types of things pieced together in order for it to work and give it a look. Like one finger is like a mesh type of like a mesh metal finger, and another one's just a regular type of metal finger. It's interesting how they're put together, and the steering wheels people have are kind of like keys, and yes, they are like a specific design, like they were molded to it as well. But it looked like some things that were like pieced together. Okay, it's like we'll use this type of metal for this, and we found like a medal from like a 1980 Chevy we can put onto it. And so it's interesting, and the costumes look great. And Morton Joe's costume is very, very interesting, though. That one, you have to say, was actually molded specifically for him, and it's not really made out of pieces found randomly. Because he thinks of himself as a god, and people treat him as a god. He's kind of made to look like one, while at the same time looking like a military general. He has this mask to help him breathe that shows teeth, like give that fear. And then you have this pure white skin and hair, that represent purity. And then you have this weird see-through chest and back plate with his medals on it. And he has kind of like a it has a gas mask on the back. It's kind of very weird, but at the same time it gives this impressionable, strength and fear, as well as almost godlike sense to him. It was interesting. Let's see, characters. There was some good character development in here, like Max being starting off as a very feral creature, and then slowly moving up to the caring person that we knew him from the other ones, and becoming the hero that we knew him from the other movies. It was just interesting because he doesn't really, because he's, like I said, he's feral. He doesn't speak that much. So he only says very few words. He's very animalistic. It's until the very end of the movie that he opens up more and starts speaking a little bit more. Imperator Furiosa, beautifully played by Charlize Theron. She plays a very strong, very actiony, very, heroic female. And unfortunately, I don't understand why we have men's rights activists, but they felt that this movie, there's men's rights activists who are boycotting this movie because Charlize Theron is the main character in this movie. They feel it's a feminist piece. It's like, I don't understand what they're complaining about. Charlize Theron, yes, is the hero, but the thing is, it's so called Mad Max because it's in the Mad Max world, but also B, Mad Max stumbles upon this. He's actually forcefully thrust into this situation, so he's more of a side character, which is not really a problem. I mean, Max still kind of does end up being the hero at the end, but this is more of Charlize's battle, and not every hero becomes the hero. Sometimes the hero just stumbles onto things and has to, decide whether or not to help or move on, and he does the heroic thing and does actually decide to help, so, Charlize Theron did a beautiful part. She has a dark past, and, is a woman just trying to seek redemption and trying to do the right thing after so many years. It's very compelling. Morton Joe is like I said, is very interesting, well designed, but also an interesting character in and of himself. So yeah, a lot of things going in there. Another interesting thing about this movie is that it felt it didn't need to explain itself, which was kind of strange to me because not everybody's seen the previous three movies. The only time they really kind of explained was in the prologue, where they explained how the world came to this point with all the wars and everything. But they didn't tell all of Max's history. They didn't say, he lost his wife and kid in the first movie, and what led him to this point. So it's kind of interesting in that they just said he was basically reduced to this point, and I thought that was interesting. They just skipped everything, just said, mainly because there are a lot of fans of Mad Max out there. So I felt that, but I still kind of felt that was strange that they didn't explain everything because, like I said, not everybody has seen Mad Max. But again, I thought it was interesting. They didn't feel the need to explain. So, but I hope that people who do see this movie see the other movies as well. In fact, a lot of the plot elements, like the fact that his wives are mainly used for breeding, so he can find a perfect heir, is not really said. It's just talked about in little bits of dialogue here and there. Like, for instance, he actually does have sons. It's just that you don't really get this. He doesn't call them sons. It's just some of the other, I guess you could call it imperfected sons. Like, one of them's like a really big muscle guy, but the thing is he's mentally challenged, so he's not perfect in the eyes of Morton Joe. And there's another guy who's the lookout, but he's just this little tiny person who has, very stubby feet. Again, not perfect in Joe's eyes, but, he's still his son. And that little person tells the big guy, go to daddy, which means it's Morton Joe. So he's like, oh, he does have sons. But again, he doesn't think of them as perfect. So there are those bits of information that are there that discuss a little bit in the plot. And there are moments later on that you get little bits of character development, but again, they're not really enveloped upon. They're just little hidden tidbits here and there. If I were to have a real problem with this movie, is that it's just goes by really fast. Like the it's like they put a giant cinder block on the accelerator and just left it there. Well, at times they do take it off to have little slow moments so that you can actually take it all in. Like, they split up the chase sequence into like segments. Like, you'll have the first main chase sequence in the beginning, and then it'll stop for a little bit so you can absorb that, but also give a little bit of plot or develop the plot a little bit more. And then they, speed up again for the next segment of the chase, slow down, take it all in, do a little bit more, and then continue. It repeats that way. And I had a little bit of problem with that, the fact that most of it was just sped up, but at the same time, it kind of felt necessary, because when you're doing a chase sequence, you need to go really fast, keep the audience attention, go with the quick cuts, because things happen really fast when you're fighting and doing a chase sequence. So at the same time, it kind of felt a little necessary, although I wish they would draw out things a little bit more, be a little bit slower more. But other than that, it's great. So it's kind of weird feeling that that I don't like it being fast, but at the same time, it feels necessary. I don't know, it just feels weird. But other than that, I enjoyed the movie very much. It is actually worth seeing. If you're a Mad Max fan, go see it. If you're an action movie fan, go see it. However, if you're part of that men's rights activist who, doesn't like that a female lead is giving orders to the hero, just, take a dive in the lake. Other than that, yes, go see this movie. It is thoroughly enjoyable. I give this movie the full 5 stars out of 5. If people who've known me or seen my previous reviews for the other Mad Max movies know that the second one, Road Warrior, is my favorite. This one would have to be my second favorite of all the Mad Max movies. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.